Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Mark Stoops, the Kentucky Wildcats, remain one of the hottest teams in the transfer portal, landing another commitment from running back from Ohio State, Chip Trayanum. And for the Kentucky fans that have been rocking with us for the last couple of weeks, we talked about Chip Trayanum, got him in on a visit this weekend. He ends up committing to Kentucky. Many of you guys know my thoughts on Chip Trayanum. As a Michigan fan, very familiar with what Chip Trayanum brings to the table, and what you're getting is a running back that is a no-nonsense back, right? 5'11", 233. He's extremely physical, has great contact balance, and has been productive at the college football level. And you take a look at what Kentucky's done in the transfer portal in just the first week of it being open, you land your potential QB1 in the 2024 season and former five-star quarterback Brock Vandagriff. You land an extremely talented wide receiver that is going to play early for Kentucky and Raymond Cottrell. And then you go land your starting running back to start the 2024 year in Chip Trayanum. Mark Stoops identified the guys he wanted in the portal. He got them on campus and got them committed in a very impressive job so far for this Kentucky staff in the portal. I want to get into Chip Trayanum, talk about a few more prospects that we're taking a look at for the Wildcats. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys, and a quick shout out to the Kentucky fans. We've talked Brock Vandagriff. We've talked Raymond Cottrell. The amount of support you guys have shown the boys, it's been absolutely amazing. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the support. If y'all do enjoy the content and you enjoy the updates, consider subscribing to the channel. And it sounds like Kentucky's not necessarily slowing down in the transfer portal, so I'm going to be doing my best to keep you guys as updated as possible with Kentucky in the transfer portal. And without further ado, let's get into Chip Trayanum. And I think Kentucky fans are going to like this. When you watch Chip Trayanum, kind of reminds me of how Chris Rodriguez ran the football. Like a guy that he doesn't mess around in the backfield. He is going to find a hole. He's going to hit the hole, and he's going to run extremely hard, fall forward, kind of get those hidden yards, kind of turn a 2nd and 7 into a 2nd and 5. 5'11", 233, extremely thick lower half. And you'll see this when he runs the football. He was a former linebacker at Arizona State before transferring to Ohio State. And it doesn't take you long to watch Chip Trayanum run the football and say, yeah, that makes sense that he was a former linebacker. He invites contact. He enjoys it. And a guy that didn't get as much usage and as many attempts as you would have liked to see at Ohio State, just due to the nature of a loaded backfield for Ohio State. What excites me the most is not only do I think Chip Trayanum is a phenomenal running back that fits the SEC extremely well, I'm really excited to see him get 20-plus carries a game. I think, one, he has the body to do so, and his running style, I think, suits it. Kind of like Chris Rodriguez, seemingly getting better as the game goes on, kind of grinding defenses down. Like Chip Trayanum, I think, has the ability to do the exact same thing. And when Kentucky's winning 10-plus games, when they're at their peak, they are being physical at the line of scrimmage. They're running the football extremely well, and I think Chip Trayanum is going to allow Kentucky to do that again in 2024. That offensive line, I'm not saying it's like the offensive lines we've seen when the big blue wall was kind of in full effect, but it got better in 2023. And if they can continue to take some strides and maybe grab some guys in the portal to get that offensive line back where it was, you're looking at the offense with a quarterback in Brock Vandagriff that has a ton of talent, with a running back like Chip Trayanum, who I do think is a phenomenal back, and all the talent that they're getting at the wide receiver position. This is a Kentucky offense that I think a lot of Wildcat fans have to be extremely excited. Chip Trayanum, a guy that Kentucky fans are going to hear a lot of in the 2024 season, a guy that I think is going to be kind of a workhorse back, like 20-plus carries a game, grinding teams down, getting back Kentucky where you kind of want it to be and what it looks like when they're winning a lot of games. Now, I want to just take a look at real quick what they've done in the portal and kind of highlight how good of a job this has been. And there's a lot of bullets that are flying as the transfer portal opened last Monday. A lot of guys hitting the portal, a lot of different names getting offers. What Kentucky did was they kind of identified early who are the guys that they want, right? Brock Vandagriff, the target at the quarterback position. They got him on the campus extremely early on in the process and got him committed. Raymond Cottrell, Chip Trayanum, very similar situations. They said, hey, we want these guys in the transfer portal. We're going to target the guys we want. We're going to get them on campus, and we're going to try to get this wrapped up as soon as possible. So you're kind of have a better feel of what other positions you got to address with the last couple of weeks of the transfer portal cycle remaining. So you got your quarterback one, we think in Brock Vandagriff. You have a wide receiver in Raymond Cottrell that is going to bring another dimension to this offense with the physical body that he has, 6'3", 215 pounds. And then you got your running back one. And those are three, I think, starters for Kentucky that they've already wrapped up in the transfer portal. And we're only a week into this. Phenomenal job by Mark Stoops and the staff. And I don't think they're necessarily done. And they're going to continue to try to revamp this wide receiver room. A wide receiver room that I think is quite talented, right? A guy like Barian Brown, one of the premier playmakers at the SEC level. A guy like Dane Key, about as solid as they come. You add a guy like Raymond Cottrell. You have Coach Cohen back running this offense. And now they're taking a look at a guy in Donovan McCulley. A really cool story. I think most Kentucky fans who have listened the last couple times we've talked Kentucky know Donovan McCulley, former quarterback, but another one of those physically imposing wide receivers. And what excites me most about Donovan McCulley is that he played the quarterback position his first 2 years at Indiana. Last season was his first kind of full year as a wide receiver, and you started to see why they made that change. Donovan McCulley was just too good of an athlete to have him be the quarterback two in this offense. They needed him to get him on the field. They got him on the field, and he was the leading receiver for the Indiana Hoosiers in 2023, and now one of the more coveted wide receiver prospects in the transfer portal. His first full year of being a wide receiver at the Power 5 level, caught for over 600 yards. 6'5", 200 pounds, those jump balls for a guy like Donovan McCulley, they're not 50-50 balls. They're 70-30, and I think you can say the exact same thing for a guy like Raymond Cottrell. So you're looking at these two wide receivers who are extremely imposing boundary receivers, and then you match them up with a guy like Barian Brown, who can work underneath and is dynamite in terms of yards after the catch. You kind of like to see how this wide receiver room is filled out for the Kentucky Wildcats. Another guy I just want to quickly mention, and then I think in another episode we'll talk about some offensive line targets for the Wildcats. Jamori Macklin, another guy that they got on campus in Lexington this weekend. Now, I don't know if they'll land both Donovan McCulley and Jamori Macklin, but a guy like Jamori Macklin caught for over 1,000 yards at North Texas, was kind of a coveted receiver coming out. Obviously, the relations to Jeremy Macklin, the star receiver for the Missouri Tigers back in the day. But you see what Jamori Macklin, I think why so many Power 5 teams are interested in a guy like Jamori Macklin and why I think he'd be a perfect fit at Kentucky is you got those two boundary receivers in Raymond Cottrell and potentially Donovan McCulley. You have just an all-around playmaker in Barian Brown. Let's get a good route runner. And Jamori Macklin's probably one of the better route runners available in the transfer portal, right? He's not necessarily the biggest. He's not necessarily the fastest, but he's going to be a guy that's going to create separation, be a quarterback's best friend in kind of creating those throwing windows. You look at the potential wide receiver room for the Kentucky Wildcats with a big body like Cottrell, with a speedster like Barian Brown, with another guy in Dane Key, and potentially Jamori Macklin, and Donovan McCulley. You're suddenly looking at this offense and saying this could be an offense that's dangerous in 2024. And I'll say this, I trust Mark Stoops on the defensive side of the football and getting that defense right. I'm sure you'll see some additions on the defense in the transfer portal, whether it's a guy like Upton Stout, other couple guys that they're keeping an eye on. But for Kentucky fans, what they've done in the first week of the transfer portal, landing 3 guys that are going to be starters in Chip Trayanum, Raymond Cottrell, and Brock Vandagriff, you got to be thrilled about how this transfer portal season is opening up. I don't think Mark Stoops is done. We'll continue to update you guys as more guys get into the fold for Kentucky. We'll round it out there again. Shout out to the Kentucky fans. This has been a program, and the fans have showed a ton of support. Cannot thank you guys enough. If you enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.